Go. My name is Bishop Edward Peacher, P-E-E-C-H-E-R. I've been pastoring in this city since 1982, 40 years. I've raised up and sent out several pastors that pastor locally and globally. I speak as a faith leader in this city, and I am honored to be here today. We honor and respect all of the faith expressions in this city, but my calling and my office is to speak to the church in the city of Chicago and to speak to the city from the church. On Saturday, Shondell Holiday lost his life in the park, which was meant to be a jewel for this city, but is now stained by the blood of yet another youth in our city. Mayor Lightfoot will enact policies and attempt to bring calm to our city, and we pray for her and the city council. But our prayers go especially out to the parents of Shondell Holiday and to all the weeping mothers and fathers of our city, for all of the youth who have been gunned down on our streets and in our parks and on our schoolyards and on our front porches and even in the living rooms of their own house. We ask God to have mercy on our city. There are several issues that must be confronted, and if we're going to address the issue of gun violence in this city, and the faith community must be present and fully engaged in that process. But there are some things that must be done that the church in Chicago, if we believe the teaching of the Lord, must do. He said to us, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. We must gather ourselves in those places of tension, gather ourselves in those places of danger. We must gather ourselves on the streets. We must gather ourselves in the park and gather ourselves in schoolyards. We must leave the 4 walls of our building, leave the Zoom meetings, and gather in the street where we can bring peace. It is time for the church to stand up and make peace happen in the city of Chicago. There are some things that must be done by other agencies, and there are some things that can only be done by the faith community, and I'm calling out to the faith community to be present in our streets to make peace happen in the city of Chicago. I bring to you Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you. Thank you, Bishop. I stand before you this morning with an incredibly heavy heart. We know that there was a tragedy that happened at Millennium Park on Saturday night. A young boy, teenager, lost his life. I've spoken to the mother, and she's, of course, totally devastated, as you would expect. I assured her that as a city government, we will be there with her as she commences on this journey of grief that no mother, no parent wants to be on. I spoke to one of the young man's mentors who shared that this young man had specific aspirations for his life. Now those dreams will be unfulfilled. As Father Mike Flager said years ago, we are bearing too much of our talent and our future in the city as a result of gun violence. It is upon all of us, as Bishop Peacher said, that we have to end this pipeline of young people to the graveyard. I know that many of our young people are looking for a space to hang out. They're tired of being inside and feeling disconnected, and they just want to be together and have fun. And I have a teenager myself at home, and I understand that desire. And to be clear, our young people have every right to be anywhere in the city that they choose. That's not at issue. The question is how, when, and with whom. We need to make sure that they are safe, and importantly, that our young people understand and respect basic community norms. Respect for themselves, respect for each other. And we must ensure that every one of our residents and visitors, no matter who they are or where they come from or how old they are able to safely enjoy our public spaces. Millennium Park represents a unique situation, as we have seen recently hundreds of young people gather in one place at the same time. And I suspect that the overwhelming number of youth that were in the park on Saturday night were there to enjoy a nice summer evening and a good time. But unfortunately, as we saw, the scene devolved into one of chaos and violence. Anyone coming into our public spaces should have the right to expect to enjoy them peacefully, as well as respect and exhibit basic community norms of decency. And we just simply cannot accept anything less. For that reason, we are taking a number of steps to prevent and mitigate against any further tragedies happening. First, we are imposing new time, place, and manner restrictions on unaccompanied minors at Millennium Park. Starting this Thursday through Sunday, unaccompanied minors will not be allowed into Millennium Park after 6 p.m. Now, I want to be clear. It gives me no pleasure to impose these rules and restrictions. But having exhausted every other opportunity, every other tool and remedy, we've got to go to this next step to make sure that our jewel of Millennium Park is available and open to everyone. Young people absolutely are welcome downtown, but in the evening hours, they must be accompanied by a responsible adult. And we are reminding also parents and caring adults that our city has a curfew that has been in effect since at least 1992. I want to repeat that again. We have a curfew. It has been in effect since 1992. In my day, when the streetlights came on, I knew that I had to be home, no matter the time of year. Right now in Chicago, the curfew for young people is 11 p.m. on the weekends. And this is, as I said, been in place for several decades. We're changing that. Today, I'm signing an executive order to move that curfew back on weekends to 10 p.m. And I'm urging parents, guardians, and responsible adults in the lives of children to make sure that you know what the rules are and that you make a plan with your children and young people to make sure that they safely abide by this curfew that's been in effect for a very long time. You need to make sure that you understand what your young people are doing, who they are with, and where they are going. And consistent with the ways that dispersals are typically handled across the city, the Chicago police will exhaust all other efforts before they take law enforcement actions to make sure that our young people are safe. That's important to know. We will also partner with Chicago Public Schools and other local school systems to fully explain these new policies and procedures to our students. The first responsibility, of course, though, to teach and enforce these basic rules of respect and decency have to begin in the home. So we will continue to encourage parents and guardians to further ensure that their children are conducting themselves appropriately and safely at all times. And let me add that I will say, as a parent, it's extremely distressing to learn that preteens, as young as 10, 11, 12 years old, have been coming downtown by themselves at night. Now, that's simply not smart, and it's definitely not safe. No matter the destination, it's not just because it's downtown. Our children need to be accompanied by adults, period. Let me say that again. Parents, guardians, you cannot just send your children out into the streets, no matter the destination, without knowing where they are going, who they are with, and making sure that there is a responsible adult with them to make sure that they safely conduct themselves in public and that they safely return home. That's simply a basic norm. And I'm just saying, parents, guardians, and caring adults, you must step up in this moment. Now, we've heard from many that our young people need more safe spaces to socialize and engage in fun and productive activities. And we completely agree. That's why every week there are literally hundreds of activities all over our city that are age appropriate at our parks, our libraries, that are sponsored by faith groups and community organizations. These activities are available in neighborhoods all over our city on the weekends, during the week, right now. What we need is to make sure that parents and guardians, and importantly, the young people, understand that these activities are available to them. Once again, I encourage anyone who's looking for these kinds of activities to visit My Shy, My Future, our umbrella organization that coordinates activities for young people in their out-of-school time. And we will have even hundreds more over the course of the summer. But right now, today, these activities to engage young people, for them to have fun and be engaged in productive activities, exist all over the city in every neighborhood. A couple other things that I think are important in light of the shooting that happened. I've asked our police department to work with our federal partners to accelerate gun traces for all firearms found in the hands of minors, and to swiftly bring charges against any adult who has provided a firearm to a person under 18. Let me also just say this, because I've been in many conversations with young people, focus groups and alike, where young people say, I carry a gun because everybody's carrying a gun. I carry a gun because I feel like I need to feel safe. And let me put the lie to this issue that carrying a gun makes you feel safe. What carrying a gun ensures is tragedy will follow. We saw that on Saturday night, and we unfortunately see that way too frequently. A gun does not make you safer. A gun in the hands of a child, a juvenile, or even a young adult is going to result in tragedy. So I am urging these young people to put the guns down. It will be used to your peril. Either you will use it in a way that devastates the rest of your life, or you will take a life that will devastate not only the person who shot, but their family. When a gun is used, that bullet just doesn't hit the target. It has a ripple effect across the community. And we've got to urge our young people to put down the guns. That's absolutely essential. This is a difficult and sad moment, but I'm hoping that with the community members who are here, representative of the community members that are willing to step up in this moment, that we will see a sea change in our city. We desperately need it. This has been a very difficult time for our young people. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the thing I want to make sure doesn't get lost, that the vast majority of our young people in this city are fantastic. They're smart, they're innovative, they're doing incredible things to contribute to their schools, their communities, and to our city. I don't want that to get lost. We can't paint with such a broad brush. And I encourage members of the media to show our young people in their true light, because there are tremendous things that are happening in this city because of and driven by our young people. But we also know that the trauma that they have experienced pre-pandemic, exacerbated by the pandemic, is real. We've got to set the standards and give these young people who are vulnerable, who are at risk, a way to come home. A way to come home. That's absolutely essential. Now I'm going to ask Commissioner Aaron Harkey of DCASE to step forward and share a few words about the new standards that will be in place at Millennium Park. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. I am Erin Herkey. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, better known as DCASE. I want to echo the Mayor's sentiments in sharing my concern, sadness, and condolences over this weekend's tragic incident in Millennium Park. DCASE will be working with the Mayor's Office, CPD, AIS, and other city departments and sister agencies to implement changes to put new rules into effect by Thursday this week. As you may know, Millennium Park is so much a part of the social and cultural fabric of our city. It is the #1 tourist destination in the Midwest and provides the backdrop for hundreds of free cultural programs, festivals, and events every year where people and families come together. It's a special place because it belongs to everyone. As Mayor Lightfoot has said, as a city, we must ensure that our young people have safe spaces to congregate and to be together. We want to be clear that our young people are still welcome in Millennium Park, and these new changes will help us ensure that they are safe. Chicago's summer events that happen throughout our neighborhoods are cherished by our residents, bolsters our tourism, hospitality, and creative industries. We are heartened that these events are returning to Millennium Park to bring a sense of normalcy and joy back to our city in just a few weeks. This summer, we welcome everyone to Chicago from around the world, including our young people, accompanied by an adult to join us. Thank you, and I want to hand this over to Jane Chu from CPS.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jadine Chow. I'm the Chief of Safety and Security for Chicago Public Schools. I also echo the sentiments, our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the young man who was killed over the weekend. Chicago Public Schools is dedicated to ensuring the safety of all of our students, both inside and outside of our schools. This means 24/7. We care about this matter deeply, and we'll be partnering with all of the agencies up here, our community partners, and of course the mayor. What we saw this weekend is unacceptable, and we need to do more. Today, the district will be sending out a letter to all families to highlight the important information that you've heard here, shared by the mayor and commissioner. We want to make sure this message gets out. We know not everyone has access to television, to radio, what have you. By making sure that every student is able to share a letter with their family, and we're using social media, we're using all the outlets that CPS has to get this word out. As stated earlier, please know we want our young people to be able to enjoy all that the city has to offer. We just want to make sure they're able to do it safely. And so with that, this letter will help include all this important information that was shared earlier today to make sure that they can be safe and enjoying our city. Also, as stated by the mayor, it's important that our young people have access to programming. And so we will also be sharing information about the programs that will be available to them to make sure that all of our families know how to find this information and how to connect our young people into it. This information can be found, as stated a minute ago, on the city's My Shine, Our Future website, as well as other information that we'll be sharing directly with our families. We also want to note the partnership that we're so grateful with the Chicago Park District to make sure that in every community that we are connecting children in our schools to the available programming. We're talking about also looking at safe passage. So in those areas where families need extra confidence on having these children travel to and from these programs, we want to work with Commissioner Escarino to make sure that we are looking into that as well. Lastly, as far as CPS, we are releasing a video today that is made up of representatives of our amazing principals at Chicago Public Schools and our CEO, Pedro Martinez, to help remind our students how much we love them, how important they are to all of us, and how we want to partner with their entire families and the city to make sure that we can keep them safe. We know it is also critically important to engage the voices of our school communities. We always, within CPS, want to make sure that we are centering the voices of those most impacted, and that is our students. In the coming weeks, we will be engaging with students and parents, our local school councils, our community action councils, our staff, and our principals To make sure that they are a part of this important conversation, we need everyone's participation to continue to solve and work on this challenge so that we can build upon the important work that has already been laid down, but now we have to step up. We know that together, by working with our young people, with our families, with our communities, with our city agency partners, and of course with the mayor, we can achieve this goal of keeping our young people safe. Our young people are counting on us. We appreciate your support in getting this message out. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the Managing Deputy Commissioner of Department of Family Support and Services, Frankie Shipman-Amuo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Frankie Shipman-Amuo, Managing Deputy Commissioner for Department of Family and Support Services. We want to echo the sentiments of Mayor Lightfoot and express our condolences to the family that is grieving. We recognize our responsibility to ensure that young people have access to experiences that will help them explore their interests, develop their passions, and build their own pathways to the future. Under Mayor Lightfoot's administration, we have developed new programs that are specifically focused on young people coming together to make a difference in their communities. One of these programs, which was created last summer, is the My Shy Kickback Series. These kickbacks were designed to empower youth to create teen-centered spaces in their communities, spaces built for youth, by youth. Last year, 375 teens worked with 15 community-based organizations to hold 150 events that drew over 12,000 people. The teens told us they wanted to keep it going, so we continued into the fall, and kickbacks were held during winter break, and even more success. We have dedicated over $5 million of the federal funds we are receiving to enable these kickbacks to take place throughout the summer and year-round. The tragic event of the weekend tell us that we need more safe spaces like this, spaces where youth are welcome, where they get to have fun, and where they are safe. In addition to the kickbacks, I want to lift up the fact that our summer jobs and Chicago Youth Service Corps programs are still accepting applications. These programs provide youth with opportunities to explore interests and build skills at the same time. $54 million in federal funding has enabled us to provide youth with jobs where they earn up to $1,800 this summer. In collaboration with our public, private, and nonprofit partners, we have over 15,000 paid opportunities for youth ages 14 to 24. This is so young people can learn and apply what they're learning. They can still apply now at onesummerchicago.org. Finally, we've worked hard to make it easier for youth and families to find things to do. The My Shy, My Future website houses all of the city's programs and many of the programs provided by our amazing youth-serving community-based organizations. Over 7,000 programs can be explored by age, location, type, right now by going to myshyMyfuture.org. Community, opportunity, and purpose. These are the key ingredients to unlocking potential in our cities and our neighbors. We thank Mayor Lightfoot for her leadership and all of our partners for their steadfast resolve in addressing safety from a community-wide perspective. I would now like to introduce Rosa Escarino, Superintendent and CEO for the Chicago Park District.
Thank you, Mayor. The well-being and safety of Chicago's children and families is the cornerstone of the Chicago Park District. We want families to know that the parks across the city offer a menu of programs and events and an array of wonderful opportunities for all to enjoy in their local park, all near, literally about 10-minute walk from your home. Last week, we opened registration for our summer programs, including day camp, teen camps, and other programs to keep youth active. As the mayor said, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of wonderful opportunities right in the neighborhood for our young people. And we want to make sure that we are doing a better job of reaching out and extending this information and making sure that families and kids know that they're there. But I will tell you that this tragic situation this weekend, and our hearts go out to the family and the loved one of this young man, but as well as the many kids throughout the city that are often finding themselves in really tough situations. We want to remind you that we have brilliant, amazing young people doing incredible things at their local parks. There are community heroes. We must lift them up. We must remind other young people that there are wonderful opportunities and alternative safe places and wonderful things that they could be doing. This summer, the Chicago Park District will fill 2,100 summer positions, including recreational leaders, attendants, junior laborers, and lifeguards, introducing them to an array of future job opportunities. I will tell you that many of the individuals that are working at the parks today, and many of you actually have worked at the parks at one point or another. So we know that these are really wonderful opportunities that really build lives, build character, and ensure the safety and longevity of fruitful life for our young people. In the coming days, we will also celebrate the 10th anniversary of our Night Out in the Parks. This summer, the series will bring more than 700 cultural events, including movies and concerts and theatrical performances to neighborhood parks. And all of them are free, and all of them are within literally a couple of blocks from your home. Also, remember that the parks are a destination of respite and healing. We, coming out of the pandemic after 2 years, we realized that being indoors has been impacted all of us adults as well as our young people in a very, very unique way, and many are being challenged by that. I was literally on a nature walk this morning looking at all these beautiful places, so we want to invite the community to take these places back. And so with that, I just want to make sure that we're all enjoying this summer and that you embrace the local community and the local parks. And I just want to talk to the kids because I, like the mayor, also have a teen. I ask teens to put down your guns and pick up a basketball. Put down the guns and pick up a soccer ball. Put down your guns and pick up a tennis ball. Put down the guns and ensure that you are coming into places that are going to build your life. And the parks is where it starts. And I will tell you that I am going to do everything in my power to work with the mayor and the schools to make sure that we are expanding and really becoming much more relevant in the lives of our young people. And with that, I want to ask Jean St. Albin, Board of Directors Chair of the Chicago Loop Alliance, to come up.
Thank you, Rosa. As a former Park District employee, I appreciate everything that you and everybody here is doing. I'm Jean D. St. Aubin. I'm the chair of the Chicago Loop Alliance, board of directors, and the executive director of the Gene Siskel Film Center of the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. What happened Saturday night is a tragedy for our entire city. We are saddened over the injuries and the loss of life and send our deepest condolences and support to the victims' families. Chicago Loop Alliance appreciates and supports Mayor Lightfoot's attention to this matter and the restrictions placed on minors gathering in Millennium Park for the safety of all, particularly some of the youngest and most vulnerable members of our community. The Loop is everyone's neighborhood. All residents, visitors, and tourists alike should feel safe when spending time in the vibrant cultural and economic hub of our iconic city. Despite the pandemic and all of the challenges of the last few years, we continue to see the region's recovery led through arts and culture, theater, higher education, the return to the office, and public gathering spaces, including our beautiful parks. The Loop is where we all gather. A safe and predictable Loop experience is critical for the security of all Chicagoans and the continued recovery of our great city. As part of our work as the sole service provider for the State Street Special Service Area in the Loop, the Chicago Loop Alliance's ambassadors are out on the street 7 days a week, monitoring street behavior, greeting and engaging visitors and workers, providing directions, assisting individuals experiencing homelessness, and offering a visible public presence in an effort of violence prevention throughout the community. The team, which you may recognize in their yellow and black uniforms, has patrolled State Street for years and recently expanded in size and footprint, including unarmed security personnel, due to the evolving challenges of our time. With the help of our security committee, Chicago Loop Alliance is continually evaluating and adjusting these resources. More details about these programs can be found at loopchicago.com. I am pleased to hear the city is investing another $1 million to support additional corridor ambassadors programs and private security details in the Loop and Michigan Avenue. These funds will help ensure greater coverage during critical evening and weekend hours starting this month. Despite the new restrictions on Millennium Park, we remain concerned about the potential for large gatherings of young people throughout the Loop, given the tragic outcomes we have all witnessed. We look forward to engaging with Mayor Lightfoot and Superintendent Brown to ensure the resources are in place to restore civility and confidence in the Loop and the city of Chicago throughout the summer. Chicago Loop Alliance will continue to work with the Mayor's Office, CPD, and the local community towards solutions to these complicated issues and ensure increased safety for all in everyone's neighborhood, the Loop. I thank you all for your time. And I introduce Bob Costanza, from the Executive Director, Beyond the Ball.
Good morning, everybody. Rob Castaneda, CASTANEDA. Originally born and raised in the neighborhood of South Chicago on the south side of Chicago. Spent the last 24 years of my life in South Lawndale, where I call home. I've been working with youth in Chicago for the past 25 years. And I agree with what the mayor said earlier, and that's that, youth in our city are amazing. And right now, we're coming out of this pandemic. They've gone through so much trauma and stress over the last couple of years, not had the typical supports that they would have normally had from a system. As a youth worker, starting this work, over 20 years ago, I love basketball, so we used to do a lot of basketball work, and we would invite, kids from North Lawndale, South Lawndale, all over the place. We had this thriving basketball community in Little Village Academy by 26 in Lawndale. And one of the things that always troubled me as a youth worker, as a resident of our city, is that we would create these amazing safe spaces inside of these controlled environments. But then you'd go out to the neighborhood, and in the neighborhood, you would see just all the signs of violence, whether it was gang graffiti, whether it was yellow police tape, red police tape. And so about 15 years ago, just this thought that if kids are going to feel safe, they need to have a space unlocked for them, then they're not ever going to really feel safe. And so for the last 12 years, my wife, excuse me, who's a Chicago public school teacher for 25 years, or 25 next year, we've just really been working on how can we create safe public spaces for our young people. What the data says is in order for a public space to be perceived as safe is you need usage. People is the number one thing that makes public spaces feel safe. And so what that means, though, as far as people, you need diversity in age and gender. So to have a program where you have just, teens between the ages of 13 and 17 and no adults, no elderly, no younger kids, that doesn't necessarily make the place feel safe, right? The research says you need diversity in age and gender. One of the hats that I currently wear right now, I am the co-founder executive director of Beyond the Ball, where we do sport and play-based youth and community development work, but I'm the community engagement manager for the Community Safety Coordination Center, also called the CSCC. What we do at the CSCC is we work with the city agencies, city resources, kind of taking this healthcare aspect approach to public violence in the same way we did to the pandemic and coronavirus. So I do want to say a couple of things. I want to say that the city is engaging community folks, community leaders all over the city to address this issue. Kids are coming downtown, not because downtown is unsafe, but because they feel safe here, right? And so the city is actively working with community leaders, community residents to make sure that not only can kids come downtown and just feel safe, but that they can feel safe in our communities. We are experiencing unprecedented levels of investment on the community level to be able to experiment and try new things. But I would also add to that, we're also experiencing unprecedented levels of trauma coming after civil unrest, coming after, global pandemic. And so while I know it's very easy for people who are on the sidelines to maybe criticize. I would also add that the hand is extended to partnership. Again, getting back to the data, right? Diverse audiences. So if you're not too old to engage in being part of the solution, you're not too young to be engaged in being part of the solution. So I'll stop right there. But to the city of Chicago, right? We're all a part of this. We're in this together, right? You hear the term "stronger together" a lot recently, right? Coming out of a pandemic, and that's true. We are stronger together, and so every time we lose a young person in our community, in our city, it shouldn't make us give up or lose hope. Instead, it should give us more resolve and fuel to persevere. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you. Now we'll hear from Diane Ladiger.
Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot. I'm here this morning because I truly believe that the City of Chicago and Mayor Lightfoot care like I do about the young people and want them to be safe. While I want to tell young people, I do not agree with you not being able to go places. But you've got to work with us to keep everything free and available to you. You've got to work with us. People like myself who sacrifice everything that we can to make sure you have a safe space, that you are welcome, that we get any resources we can to help you to thrive. Well, you've got to work with us to let us know you want that and that you value that. I don't agree with everything that goes down about you. I want to make sure that you know that there are people like myself who literally care, like the mayor and a lot of people in Chicago care about you and that you're safe. But you've got to make sure we all safe too. Young people, just remember that your communities are there for you, that the resources that are given to communities and organizations like Kids Off the Block are there for you. So please, seek us out. Just before you seek a gun, before you seek violence, seek us out because we're there. And I want to thank the City of Chicago for being there for organizations like ours. Thank you, Mayor Lightfoot.
We're happy to take your questions now.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Appreciate it. Members of the media, Amanda and I will bring down the mic to you. 2 questions per reporter. If you need to exit, please use the back door. We'll start with Glenn Marshall.
Hey, how you doing? Question, will there be, will parents get in trouble for if their kids breaking curfew? Is it going to be anything where parents will start getting some type of reprimanding for, like, if their kids are caught with guns in any of this situation? Because it seems like you're crying out to the kids and you're also crying out to these parents, but will something happen?
Well, look, our goal here is to educate people into compliance. Our goal is not to bring down a heavy hammer penalties on kids or their parents. But obviously, parents, guardians, and caring adults have a role to play. And my expectation and hope is that they're going to step up. And so part of what we're going to be doing in partnership with the organizations that are here, but also many that are not represented, is really activating those caring adults, those parents, those guardians. There's a reason why we are working through Chicago Public Schools to make sure that parents understand what the rules of the road are and that they can then talk to their children about that. That's the first place that we need to be, is education and collaboration. The last place that any of us want to be is enforcement.
So there's nothing?
No, I'm not saying that there's nothing. I'm saying there's a process, and that where we want to start is to engage and educate our parents and activate them to be much more engaged in what's going on with their children, not just sending them in an Uber or a car or on the train to far-flung parts of the city without any adult supervision whatsoever. And I think if we can do that successfully, that's where we need to spend our time and resources. Of course, there are consequences. There are things baked into the law. But what I want to emphasize is not the consequences if you break them. What I want to emphasize is how do we work together to bring people into compliance and to make sure that our young people can enjoy public spaces, but do it safely and with respect for others.
Thanks, Mayor. WBZ, Mariah.
Can you give us those consequences, though, just to have?
Yeah, we can get you the specifics offline. But again, what I want to emphasize is not the consequences, the heavy hammer of the city or the police department. We want our young people to be able to enjoy our city, enjoy it safely, but do it in a way that's respectful of others. And parents have to be part of that solution.
Mariah, WBZ.
Hi, Mayor. Good morning. My question is also about enforcement. What legal authority are you relying on to enforce a curfew or, this 6 p.m. curfew at Millennium Park? What are the consequences? Because I think that's important information for
First
right now.
First of all, it's not a curfew. It's time, place, and manner.
The restrictions.
It's time, place, and manner restrictions.
Sure.
The Supreme Court of the United States for decades has authorized cities to impose time, place, and manner restrictions. We're certainly within that heartland. If you look at the longstanding rules that govern Millennium Park, those have been in place for quite some time. And so we're modifying those. We're giving advance notice. We're educating members of the public. We're not saying that young people can't come into Millennium Park in the evening hours, but when they do, they must be accompanied by an adult.
I understand. So, but what are the consequences? You said officers at the park will exhaust all other options before taking law enforcement action. What is that law enforcement action? Are the teens being arrested?
Why do you want to go to arresting children?
No, I don't. I'm just wondering.
But I just have to raise that issue up. No, we don't want to arrest children.
Sure.
If we have to because they're breaking the law, we will. But what we've seen in other areas of the city when issues have arisen is our officers talk to the young people, educate them about what the rules are, and in most instances, the young people disperse without any incident. That's what we're hoping will happen.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of what that process looks like when.
The process is we'll have appropriate signage all over the park. We're going above and beyond to make sure that we are educating young people, parents, the faith community, community-based organizations, so everyone knows what the rules are. And when young people come and they're unaccompanied, the park security, and if necessary, police officers, will let them know what the rules of the road are. And as I said, when we've seen this happen in other instances, they simply disperse. They follow the rules. And the vast majority of kids that were down there were following the rules, but unfortunately, some were not, and it led to tragedy.
Alice, Tribune?
I do have just one other question.
2 questions.
One was a follow-up. I'm wondering how you're measuring success and when will this ban be removed? Like, what does effectiveness look like to you, and when do you think the restrictions would be removed?
Well, I don't have a deadline on when the restrictions will be removed, and so they'll remain in existence for the foreseeable future. And what success looks like to me is young people enjoying our city and doing it safely. And safely means with respect for themselves, but also respect for others.
Alice, Tribune?
Hi, so my first question is, what was your process coming to this decision on the restriction, and who did you consult?
Well, when I heard about I've been thinking about this for some time, but when I heard about the tragedy on Saturday night, it really kind of catalyzed in my mind that we needed to take some decisive action. So we touched a range of different stakeholders in the 24 hours from Saturday night, obviously consulting with my team, but we also consulted members of the faith community, youth servicing organizations, and a range of other stakeholders to get their sense of what we should take, what actions we should take as a city. We talked about the restrictions on Millennium Park. We also talked about the moving up of the hours of the curfew and got, I think, a general consensus from a wide variety of stakeholders that this was the right way for us to move forward.
Thank you. And the ACLU said it's planning to send a letter to your office today, which could be a precursor to litigation. Are you confident this restriction will not infringe on minors' rights to be in public or be enforced unfairly on young people of color?
Of course I am. Of course I am. And you know, I have a lot of respect for the ACLU, but here on planet Earth, in reality, we have a crisis in our city, and we have to take action. Doing nothing is simply not an option. So I will listen, I will engage with them, but doing nothing is not an option, and I think the modest, very surgically, narrowly defined actions that we're taking make sense in this moment.
Joni, Fox.
So the kids are responding to these invitations on social media. What's the plan for when these gatherings move to other popular places in other neighborhoods?
Well, we are obviously on open sources following these invitations. I'm concerned, frankly, that this particular one was from what is called a ghost account, meaning a phony email, phony phone number. So we're working with social media platforms to identify and take down those kinds of sites. And we've been, I think, relatively successful in identifying the young people that are involved in these postings, going to them, talking with them, talking to other schools and principals to get them to understand the consequences of their action. And when we've done that, I think, and Jadine can speak to this more specifically, and I'll invite her up, I think we've seen that the light bulb goes off and they recognize, oh, this is a bigger thing than what I thought it was. So we're obviously going to be monitoring very carefully to see if there are calls for young people to gather in other areas of the city, and we'll respond accordingly. Jadine?
Just following up on what the mayor was just saying in terms of how we handle social media with regards to large gatherings, we receive information from other young people. So this is not me up there looking for this information as much as it is our young people who know what's going on. They've seen, this is not the first weekend where we've had situations kick off after a bunch of young people have come downtown, and they don't want to see what happens if someone gets hurt. They see this as their city as well. I meet with a lot of young people all the time, and they ask us, what are we doing about this? Because this is a reflection on them. This is a reflection, they're making us look bad. Like, these are the kind of reactions that we hear. And so what we want to do when someone brings something to us, it's not at all about getting anyone in trouble. This is not about a consequence in that way. We want to sit down with the young person, sit down with their parent, and talk about, do you know what this might result in, and how do you feel about that? And as the mayor just said, 100% of the time, the young person says to us, I didn't see it that way. I thought it'd be fun. And so then we work through that. But I just want to emphasize, this is not about any type of enforcement as much as it is a partnership with our young people. And so, as with everything we do, safety is about relationships inside of the schools, across our city, and we encourage, young people, parents, to talk to us, work with us, we'll work with you, and that's how we're going to keep our children safe.
Heather, WTTW.
Hi, Mayor. I want to turn to the remap for a minute. In January, you told reporters, hang on, I'm going to pull it up. If you look, quote, if you look at the ward boundaries, they don't make any sense and they don't respect neighborhood boundaries. I think we can do better than what the current map looks like. With the 36th ward being turned into a narrow strip along Grand Avenue, do you think that you have achieved that goal with this map?
Let me push back on, I think, a mistaken assumption in your question. It's not that I've achieved any goal. I didn't draw any lines. I wasn't in the map room. My narrow participation down the stretch was to create an environment in which the parties could come to some kind of reasonable compromise and avoid a costly and frankly wasteful referendum.
Latino Chicagoans make up about a third of the city's population, slightly more than Black Chicagoans. Why then will you sign a map with 14 wards with a majority of Latino voters and 16 wards with a majority of Black voters? How is that fair to Chicago's Latino community?
Well, I think you got to ask that question of the Latino council members who signed on. This map, as I understood it, was drawn by members of the city council. And it has an overwhelming majority of the members signing off on this map. So it's not for me to veto a map and throw the process back into chaos. So this is uniquely and supremely a city council exercise. They have come to a consensus. We'll see what happens at the city council meeting. But if a majority, the requisite 41 or more, sign off on this, then it's them saying we've come to an agreement as to what we think the ward boundaries are.
ABC 7.
Mayor, going back to the Millennium Park situation, if there don't seem to be any significant consequences for kids who would violate this, what is the deterrent value of just talking to them?
Well, again, let me push back on your assumption. Our experience in other parts of the city is that when we do place certain restrictions on access, and particularly that you've got to be accompanied by an adult, the young people comply. Simple as that. So our hope is that examples that we've seen in other instances across the city will hold here at Millennium Park. My interest is not rounding up young people and throwing them in the back of a wagon. That's not what this can or should be about. It's about making sure that we are enforcing community norms, that our young people and their parents understand that, and that they abide by them. And my expectation is that the vast majority of our young people will do just that, and that there isn't going to be a need for enforcement action. But as you saw last weekend and in other instances, when young people have not abided by clear directions on how they have to conduct themselves in public, we're not going to hesitate to take action. But the emphasis on lock them up and throw away the key, as I'm hearing from many of the questions this morning, really misses the point. The point is to create safe spaces for all of our residents all over our city to be able to enjoy these public spaces safely and with respect for others. That's the objective.
I don't think any of the questions talked about locking them up and throwing away the key, just for the record. Some of your political rivals have suggested that this is only going to push the problem into other neighborhoods. And is that fair to the other neighborhoods to enforce in one area and then leave others vulnerable to the same kind of incidents?
Well, you made the point, right? Political rivals. It's the silly season. So people are going to say and do outrageous things to have you say such and such said X, Y, Z and get their name recognition up. I'm not going to respond to that kind of silliness. What I'm focused on is making sure that we take affirmative steps to create safe spaces all over our city for our young people, our families, and our visitors. That's what I'm focused on.
Jorge de Santiago, Telemundo, Mayor.
Good morning, Mayor. This question is for Rosa Escarino.
Yes.
¿Puede hablar de todos los programas que están disponibles y todo lo que están haciendo ustedes para tratar de llegar a los jóvenes de esta ciudad?
Sí, primero quiero dejarles saber a los padres y a los jóvenes que hay bastantes oportunidades, que la prioridad de la ciudad y del Distrito de Parques es que todo mundo tenga un verano exitoso y sin ningún problema. Pero tenemos varios programas en los parques. La semana pasada comenzamos la inscripción de todos los programas de verano. Entonces hay programas de campestre de verano en todos los parques. Estamos también ofreciendo empleo para la juventud. Los jóvenes de 16 años en adelante pueden obtener un trabajo con el Distrito de Parques que paga a lo mínimo 15 y más arriba de 15. Tenemos muchos programas no solo para los jóvenes, que en todas las como 250 locales hay programas, pero la semana próxima vamos a anunciar el programa de Night Out in the Parks, que es el programa que trae películas, eventos de teatro, eventos de música a todos los parques. El enfoque de hoy es asegurar que los jóvenes y las familias tienen varias opciones, y nosotros sabemos que entre más familias salen y están en los parques o en estos lugares seguros, hay una oportunidad para que la juventud también esté protegida.
Stephanie,
Gracias.
Thank you, Commissioner. Stephanie, ABC 7.
Thank you, Mayor. So what do you say to folks who see this incident and have fears about coming downtown?
Well, look, what I want to do is make sure that we reassure the public that our downtown is safe and that we are taking these specific steps to make sure that our downtown remains safe. Again, I think the vast majority of young people that were out there on Saturday night were out there to try to have fun and enjoy a summer evening. Unfortunately, we saw tragedy happen because young people carried guns downtown, and that's just simply not going to be acceptable. And we're going to make sure that we hold those people, whether they're adults or young people, who pick up a gun and try to solve petty disputes by pulling the trigger. We've got to hold those folks accountable, and we've got to continue to do everything that we can, as I think Diane Latiker of Kids Off the Block said so passionately. Work with us, help you. help us create safe spaces for our young people all over the city to enjoy. But the one thing we simply will not tolerate is anyone picking up a gun and trying to solve it's always some kind of petty dispute with a gun. That's not going to be acceptable in the city of Chicago, and we will find you and we'll prosecute you, just as we've done with the young man who was responsible for the shooting on Saturday night. Now he's facing, unfortunately, a very serious charge that if it convicted, that's going to affect the rest of his life. It is simply not worth it. But we're creating safe spaces in our city, and our downtown is safe.
Thanks, Mayor. Michelle Gallardo, ABC7.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Are you not concerned, though, that these new restrictions on Millennium Park are simply going to move these large crowds of teenagers from there to other public spaces such as Navy Pier or the beaches? And what specific steps are being taken, other than obviously monitoring online, to prevent this from happening as you may start to see it?
Well, first of all, you mentioned Navy Pier. Navy Pier has had these kind of restrictions for quite some time. So I don't expect it to spread there, but I get your point. If we were just doing these time and place restrictions in Millennium Park, then that might be a concern. But my hope is that the other things that we are doing, which is engaging CPS students and their parents, engaging members of the faith community, community-based organizations, and really, I think, mounting a full-throated campaign to encourage our young people to engage in productive activities, hundreds that are available every week in every neighborhood across the city, that we're not going to continue to see what we've seen, but obviously we'll adjust and monitor that. But I want to emphasize again that every single week, including the weekends, our parks, our libraries, our schools, our community-based organizations have a range of different fun and productive and safe activities for our young people and their families to engage in. So we've got to make sure that we continue to lift up those opportunities. Let me say again, My Shy, My Future is a great resource because it literally lists every activity that's available across the city for young people and their families to engage in their out-of-school time. So we've got to continue to drive home that message of availability of these activities. And I think if we do that and do that right and use the opportunities that we have through CPS, through the other school districts, we're not going to see a massive gathering elsewhere. Now, again, we've got to be diligent. And if we see that, then we'll respond accordingly. But my hope is that we lower the temperature, remind young people there's lots of fun things to do all over the city, and that we encourage them to engage in these fun, productive activities elsewhere.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.